Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And we're now the closing keynote interview of our World Fitness and Wellness Online Summit. Thank you very much to all of you who have stuck with us through the whole day. A really fantastic day of talks and discussions. We have left the best for last, as the saying goes. A real pleasure to welcome Colin Grant, co-founder and CEO of Pure Group, to join us here today. Colin is an industry veteran known by many of you. He started Pure Group from humble beginnings into what is arguably now Asia's best known lifestyle and wellness company, operating in Singapore, Hong Kong and China, and to huge growth over the past few years. Colin Grant, welcome.
Thank you, Ross, much appreciated.
Let's talk about the vision, I suppose, for Pure Group. The vision must have grown and grown over the years, but perhaps looking on the last couple of years, how has the vision of Pure evolved, and where do you see Pure as a brand going forward?
Well, actually, the vision, we crystallized it many years ago when we started, which was essentially to help and inspire people to lead happier, healthier, and more balanced lives. And that essentially, it hasn't even changed. It's actually become even more relevant, especially during this period. It's all about, when we did the original kind of vision plan in 2003, we really wanted to find a balance between physical and mental well-being. And it's about finding that balance. And if you look at the last 6 months, it's been such a stressful and challenging time for everybody, not just physically, but also mentally. And I think the vision we put in place many years ago is still very valid. So it hasn't really evolved. What has evolved is more our business and how we approach it. So when we started Pure many years ago, it was primarily yoga and then fitness. And we've evolved more around lifestyle. So we've added the nutrition component, the apparel. We're now moving it more into online. And we've really tried to build more of that 360 wellness solution to help people lead happier, healthy, and more balanced lives. So actually, the vision hasn't really changed. If anything, the last 6 months has cemented our vision and made it even stronger.
I think we've saw in the past couple of years, perhaps other operators who have now tried to evolve themselves into more of this wellness and lifestyle brand. You seem to have had that position already locked down for a number of years. So look, congratulations for you and the team for already seeing that trend and moving into it. Another trend that we've saw in the past couple of years, Colin, has businesses that have tried to enter the Chinese market. Of course, it looks fantastic from the outside, but it's a very difficult market to penetrate. You've been there, you've been very successful in growing the business there. How did you manage to do this? Perhaps what are some of the lessons that you've learned, the secrets that you can share, but how have you grown such a successful Chinese part of your business?
It's tough. First, I mean, we're doing okay there. It's a massive opportunity. It's still very much in the early innings. I see the market so we're in Shanghai, Shanghai and Beijing at the moment. And I say it's akin to Hong Kong 15 years ago when we started. But it's going to take about 3 years to catch up. It moves so fast. You know, we got in about six years ago. And it was funny, ever since we started Pure in 2001, people would say, when are you opening in Shanghai? When are you opening in Shanghai? When are you opening in Shanghai? And we waited and we waited and waited. I would do trips on a regular basis. And we opened our first yoga studio 6 years ago. And I think we got the timing just right. We dipped our toe in. And now we spent the last 6 years understanding the market, learning the behavior of the consumer there, what they like, what they don't like. And as we learn and develop the offering, we're starting to grow the business more and more as we get more and more confidence. We have 7 clubs today in Shanghai, and with another 2 opening towards the end of the year. We have 2 in Beijing, with possibly a 3rd one in the coming months. So I think what we've done is we've gone into the market, we've dipped our toe in, we've moved slowly and carefully, really trying to understand that, listen, it's a massive opportunity. It certainly is. It's not a question of, is the Chinese consumer going to lead a healthier life? It's just a question of when. And we're starting to see that happen now. And so we've taken what we've learned in Singapore and in Hong Kong and tried to adapt that to the Chinese kind of consumer. And it's surprisingly similar. There aren't too many differences to what Hong Kong was 15 years ago. And so if we look at the trends and the path that we've taken in Hong Kong, we see Shanghai and Beijing following that path.
Obviously, we talked to Lonnie Wang earlier on today, and she's had 25 incredible years at Katic growing that. So, in a similar trajectory, I suppose, at Pure, it's been step by step in building that business up over time. Maybe reflecting back over the past, maybe say 6 to 7 months, this maybe is a period of time that has allowed you to accelerate some of the innovations that are running through the group. How have you invested your time in the past 6 or 7 months in terms of forwarding some of the innovations you're bringing to the front?
Yeah, so this last 6 months, we've really looked at the online offering. Obviously, when our clubs are closed, the only channel to get exercise and what we offer to our members and the general public is through online platforms. And so what we did when we had a closure period in March and April, actually in January, February, March in Shanghai, and then in March and April in Hong Kong. And what we decided to do for the first closure period was we would offer classes on IG and Facebook, Instagram and Facebook, and we would make them available to everyone. We felt it was the right thing. And we did a lot of online content, a lot of classes to really let people know that we're in this together. And we also used that time to collect a lot of data, to speak to a lot of members, to find out what they liked to do online, what was their experience, because it's slightly different. The online experience is very different than the in-club experience. So we used that experience to strategize what we want to do online. And so we've now launched Purecast, which is at the moment available only to members. Okay. And in this current closure, we've made it available only to active members. But as we speak, we're working on expanding that to make it open to anybody. It will be a global platform that will offer yoga classes, fitness classes, online PT, online group X and small group private. So this period has definitely accelerated and made us think a lot more about what we need to do online. And it's been, I guess, if anything, a silver lining. It's pushed us, because we've looked at the online space for about 6 or 7 years. And we tried to figure out what is the right model. And we've come up with something that's very complementary. We have our own members app. And this is the schedule's built into the app. One click and it goes straight into a Zoom class. So it's built in directly through the app. And you can go straight into the Zoom app. And we're looking, obviously, in China, it could be a different platform, or maybe WeChat or one of the others. There's a few other platforms we're looking at. But this last 6 or 7 months has really accelerated our online offering and made us appreciate that we need to be in that space moving forward.
Let me just dig a little bit deeper into that, Colin. I mean, how big an opportunity is online for you? I know for some companies, perhaps, maybe those in Australia, they're serving a local market. There's an upside there, but of course, it's not a huge market and it's quite difficult to try and capture that. You're sitting on top of a potentially huge audience in East Asia and even Southeast Asia. How big an opportunity is there for Pure in the online space?
Well, we think it's massive. I mean, our initial focus will be in mainland China, because we think the market is underserved by yoga studios and fitness centers, and there isn't a network of clubs across China. And also, I don't think there's the network of all the available programming and classes. So people, if they haven't got access to those classes offline, we would like to provide that online. And that's something we're looking at with a bit of a focus on mainland China, and then obviously the rest of Southeast Asia. we think going forward, to be successful, you need a complementary, it's an O2O, right, online to offline, wellness experience. And we have, over 800 yoga teachers, group X instructors, and PT who can provide great content. So what we have to do is then, on top of that, bolt on the right platform. And I think it'll be a few different platforms. I don't think there's a silver bullet. If you have one platform, you can capture the whole market. It won't be like that. So you're going to have different online platforms with the underlying content filtering up to those. And that's kind of how we're looking at it at the moment.
Let's maybe look at live group exercise. Obviously, it's one of the foundation stones of your business from the very start. From especially yoga, you have expanded your group exercise content quite significantly to be basically fully comprehensive. But then, of course, you've also launched Fuse. Maybe a two-sided question, Colin. One, what's your thoughts on the future of group exercise? And then two, how does Fuse fit in with that future thinking?
Yeah. So for us, when we look at the fitness clubs that we have, just over 30% of our members take regular group exercise classes. So that's a lot. And not only that, but the average member life of someone who takes regular group X classes is considerably longer than the members that don't. So obviously it plays an important part. And when we look at the club experience, it's got to, for us, we believe, to be long-term and sustainable, it's got to be social, it's got to be enjoyable, and you've got to see results. And that is something that group exercise provides. I say this in the nicest way, but a lot of our most passionate members are the ones that take a lot of group X classes. And so we think group X has a big part to play in the future of fitness globally. We have a lot of programs and we're constantly looking at new programs, speaking to our members. So I think, whether in the future technology plays a greater role or how the music is delivered, I think the environment is important, whether it's the lighting and the design. But I think group X absolutely is critical to the success for Pure for a start, definitely. And Fuse was built on the back of very successful group X classes. So we found, if you look at our clubs, our big box, we have dedicated spin studio, a dedicated group X studio. But the group X studio had limitations, right? You couldn't do boxing, you couldn't do much functional training, and you couldn't do much cardio. But these were programs that we thought would fit well into a kind of group exercise class environment. So we built the Fuse. We have one at Suntec in Singapore, we have two in Hong Kong, and we're going to be launching one in Shanghai soon. So these are that kind of a group exercise concept and experience from our members, but built around not the body pump type of class or the Zumba, but it's different. It's boxing, it's cardio, and it's functional training. So when we first launched Fuse, we launched with Conquer and Ceremony, which are two Les Mills programs built around those programs. And we've also launched Blaze, and we're launching a new one, Fuel. So we have our own content as well, and we're starting to evolve the content around those programs. And Fuse also allows us to have different focuses, whether if someone enjoys boxing more than cardio, or if they want more running, or they want more functional. So that gives us a bit more flexibility to offer different types of classes. This is the challenge about doing these at home. You can see you're doing it, it's very cute. But there are, so we built Fuse to enhance the in-club experience on top of the existing group exercise classes that we have. And then we're also looking at, is Fuse something we could bring out as a standalone? And that's something we're looking at. Or is Fuse something we could franchise?
You touched earlier on about, obviously, the new investment coming into online, the new investments in group exercise. Let's maybe look at another new sector, which is connected fitness, at-home fitness, which is now booming. And we've saw deals being done. Lululemon's, of course, acquisition of Mirror. How do we view this as operator? How do you view it as an operator, Colin? Is the at-home connected fitness market something we should look at as a friend or even a foe?
Best friend.
Great.
Best friend. Best friend. More than that. Partner. No, I think it has to be. I think, especially on the back of the last 7 months, you've got a small group of people that enjoyed working out at home. They're set, they're hooked already. Then you had a big group of people that really weren't comfortable, they weren't sure. Well, that group now has been exposed to online fitness, and they're becoming more comfortable. Well, I think, but I touched on it earlier, you need a complementary online, offline. And if you can have the two together, because people that want to lead a healthy life, they want to exercise, they want to eat healthy, and they want to do it all the time. They want to do it when they travel, for business, holiday. They want to do it if they haven't got time to go to the gym, and they sometimes don't. They need something more convenient, more accessible. So I think if you're able to bring the two together, and again, marrying online and offline, you'll be able to provide people with a much more comprehensive offering anywhere, anytime. And talking about Lululemon's purchase of Mirror, I think, and I touched on it earlier, to have a successful online platform, I think you need a combination of different platforms. You could have a hardware device that is not cheap, you know, 1,000 US, but it has a lot of whistles and bells, a lot of functionality, a lot of high tech. Then you can have something that's very easy where you just need a phone or an iPad and a Wi-Fi, stable Wi-Fi, and you download a simple app and it's, you know, $10 a month or whatever. And a combination of the two and maybe one or two other platforms, you put them together with amazing content, the underlying content feeds through all of those platforms. That to me is that's a direction we're definitely going.
Let me just kind of pull the conversation over to, I suppose, two of the weaknesses that we see in our industry and always have been, Colin. Maybe one is customer retention, and then maybe just coming on from the conversation, just touching on their penetration into marketplaces. Yeah. Maybe let's touch on the first one, which is customer retention. It seems to be an Achilles heel of our industry. Year after year, we seem to be having similar talks and similar challenges. We seem to have found some ideas to move forward, and they're only working to a certain degree. What has to change for us to really start retaining our members?
I think operators, people that run clubs, need to genuinely believe in the value about, call it after-sales service, right? Since I talk to so many operators, and all they want to talk about is how do we sign up more new members? What's the closing percentage? How much does it cost to get a new member? How do you advertise and promote that? We should be spending most of our time looking after our existing members. Because if you do that, we get 60% of our new joins from referrals. Because we focus heavily on member experience. We focus heavily on making sure the customer, once we sign them up, that's the easy bit. Yeah. Then we got to go to work. And I think it's hard for a CEO or CFO to invest in that, because where do they see the return? Oh, what's the retention rate or the average member life? Or I'm not sure that they don't really perhaps believe in the value of looking after and servicing your customers once they've joined. So Fuse was developed because we wanted to improve retention. I mean, we want to make our members happier. We want them coming into the clubs much more often. And that's the other thing. I would talk to other operators and say, actually, yeah, it's not too bad because our members actually don't come that often. That's a nightmare. I would hate that. I want our members to come as often. I want them there every day. Because if they're coming every day, they're leading a healthy lifestyle, they're going to be a member for longer, they get healthier and fitter, their friends see it, then they become a member. They become our salespeople, actually. Yeah. And so what you've got to do, but it's a belief and it's a mindset. And what we've done from the very beginning is believed at our core, we've got to service and look after our members. If we do that, the new members will actually come. It makes that job actually much easier in terms of getting leads and getting into the club. So I think it's primarily a mindset. People have to believe, operators have to believe that it's the right thing to do.
Do you think that's the same answer then to solving the problem with how we can penetrate greater into the marketplace and get more people to come into the gyms? Is the answer basically the same to make sure that all operators are there?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I think we have very high usage of our clubs, and it's something that we work on very hard, and we're constantly working out, like, how can we get our members coming into the club more often? How can we get them exercising more? Because if they're in the club exercising more, they're getting fitter, they're getting stronger, they're feeling better, and they're telling their friends. So it comes down to helping people live happy and healthy lives. And if that's one of your core values, that's part of what you're about. It's got to start at the top and cascade through the organization. And if people believe it and focus on it, but you've got to do it in a genuine and an authentic way.
Let's keep on that subject of getting more people into the gym, Colin. You've been in this industry for 20 years now. You've seen businesses do things right and wrong. Maybe this year we've seen actually more government engagement by our industry in making sure that, I suppose, we are part of the solution and not part of the problem. How do we as an industry take this opportunity and make sure that in the next 3 to 4 quarters, as the market recovers, as the world heals, our industry can grow exponentially?
I think, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you for helping us, and the operators in Singapore work closely with the government. And I think that's what you're doing there is what we're actually trying to do ourselves in Hong Kong. I think what's happened on the back of COVID is people are coming together, operators are coming together. I've been speaking to operators around the world. I've been speaking to some in Singapore, a lot more of what I would call competitors, but we're in this together. So I think we have to lobby governments, and the governments have to understand that we're an essential service. We're an essential service. If the busier our clubs are, the quieter doctors and hospitals will be. And so it's our job to really work together and collaborate as an industry and as a sector to put ourselves at the forefront. Because I think people kind of think that we're a business, we run gyms. I said, but we're in the business of helping people lead healthier lives. And by doing that, people are going to get sick less often, less demand on the healthcare system. So I think it's operators coming together. It's events like this, Ross, that you guys have put on. So I want to take my hat off to you and the team. This is a fantastic event where we can share these ideas and come together. And it's things like this that we have to do more of. And forming workshops and groups together. Yes, we're competitors, but I would love to see all of my competitors. The better they do, the better we do. And we've got to see that as healthy for the industry. And if someone comes in that's really, really good, we've got to take that. Fantastic. Whenever we get a competitor, we get together and say, right, how can we do better? That's it. Because at the end of the day, if we don't succeed, it's no one else's fault except our own. And so competition is good, but at the end of the day, we've got to do this together. We've got to collaborate. We've got to lobby governments. So in Hong Kong, we formed the Professional Hong Kong Alliance of Wellness and Fitness Operators, and we're lobbying the government. And we're going to work together as an industry to come across to the consumer, very much aligned around preventative healthcare, and educating the public, educating also the government about what our industry does. To be honest, the government should be subsidizing our industry, subsidizing us. The US each year subsidize, if you talk about how important, say, diet is to keeping people healthy, the US last year subsidized the meat and dairy industry to the tune of $38 billion. Now, fruit and vegetable, which is, I'm a vegan, so I'm biased, is healthy, right? They got subsidized to the tune of 17 million. 38 billion, 17 million. If people are eating more fruit and vegetables, if they're exercising more, take the 38 billion, subsidize gyms and fitness centers and that, if people are healthier, that's what, then they don't, it'll take the pressure off the healthcare system. So we have to do a better job lobbying the government, because at the moment we're seen as a business that's not an essential service. And I think that's what we need to do as well. And on the back of this, I hope, because I know operators have been coming together to work to lobby governments about reopening and restrictions, what have you, but also we have to continue with that dialogue with the government, and hopefully we can, to get the government on our side to see how important our role is in society.
Ladies and gents, please write your questions in the chat box down to the right-hand side, and we'll get through to those in the next few minutes. Interesting, Colin, just talking about making sure this alliance is formed. I think Singapore, we've been trying to do this, and it's quite interesting how, we talk about the acceleration of the digital journey for the past 6 months, but we've also saw the acceleration of industry groups coming together. Perhaps, this is a welcome invitation for anybody, for anyone that wants to have a conversation afterwards. I know that Urza, I know that FIBO, a whole ton of people are trying to look now at this coalition of associations and alliances to make sure we have a global voice. For anyone that wants information, we're more than happy to make sure that we're trying to connect those dots, because as Colin mentioned, as Greg Oliver mentioned, as Simon Flint mentioned, only by gathering all this data and presenting it in front of governments where we really have the best opportunity to create this. Colin, when forming this, I suppose, association, some people watching this will be looking at this and saying, do you know what, that's exactly what we need to do. What were your plans and steps and challenges in setting up this alliance? Was it purely industry-led? Was it government-backed at all? What's been happening with the Hong Kong Alliance?
It's basically, I was in touch with a couple of the other operators, and we wanted to sit down and meet the government. And I tried to schedule a meeting, and the government would only talk to an industry association or body. That's generally how the government here, which is probably similar in other countries, works. They prefer to sit with groups that broadly represent an industry, because then they're not being seen to be aligned to one particular company. So we formed this alliance. Was very, very easy to set in Hong Kong, in the middle of formalizing it. We had a formal meeting with Secretary for Health and Food and Health and Home Affairs Bureau, and we've had a number of phone conversations and emails and what have you on. And they're actually very proactive, because they're interested to hear. They don't know the health industry. They don't know how gyms operate. So they're interested in doing that. But what we've got to do in Hong Kong is get more of the other operators together. And once they see the benefit that we have an open channel of communication with the government, and once the government sees how we operate, that it's in their interest to work with us and it will be a win-win, then I think there will be more communication going forward, even after this COVID situation. So it wasn't actually that hard. The operators are actually very keen. But the important thing is to have a broad representation. So you've got boutiques, you've got owner-operated, you've got even independent PTs, you've got some big box. So it's got to be quite broad to make it authentic and kind of genuinely representing our industry.
Let's take a couple of questions from the audience. I can see a couple have popped in here. One of which is, customer journey is so important, Colin. How have you dealt with bridging the experience from in-club to online? How have you managed to take your member from in-club to online? How have you managed that journey?
Well, in Hong Kong, hasn't been that hard because our clubs are closed, so that's so they don't have a choice. But what's happened is, because of the closure period, that we used we have our own member app, we used our EDM, we use social media to get people and channel them through to online. Also, we have our teachers and personal trainers, they have their own social media accounts, getting them, and they're in touch with all of the members themselves. So using our frontline staff as well to communicate directly to the members, to get them online to experience. And with the power of social media, nowadays you can spread that word pretty quickly.
Another question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Another question is, what does the future of yoga look like? It's obviously grown exponentially in the past 20 years commercially, Colin. I suppose we're seeing more independence, more franchises. What does the future of yoga look like in the future? It's funny,
when we first opened Pure Yoga in January 2002, I was asked, so how long is this yoga trend going to last? And I was asked that question for about maybe 1 or 2 years. Then people stopped asking. They could see it wasn't a trend. It's gone mainstream. And if we look at our clubs, they're as busy as ever. And what happened is, people were getting into the yoga, what's called the asana practice, the physical practice. Now they're getting into meditation. And so when you combine the two, it's very powerful. And then there's a lot of, now we're increasing our programming around whether it's core yoga, vinyasa yoga. You have so many different types of yoga. And I think the offering is so wide and it goes so deep, and it's both a physical and an emotional experience. Have you taken class, Ross? We're going to get you in and do some yoga.
I'm a very, very bad practitioner, Colin. I think I think you call me a stiff white male is what I am.
More reason to come. More reason to come. But and with everybody running, exercising, weightlifting, doing all these other classes, yoga is a very good, it complements other types of exercise. So I think it's only the tip of the iceberg. It really is.
Let's touch on the other parts of your business. Of course, you've taken some rather large investments, and successfully so, in both apparel and nutrition. Touching on both of those, what's the future for each of those business units? And how does it, what maybe challenges do you think are going to be faced in the next couple of years?
Though apparel and nude are nutrition business, real parts of the ecosystem that we have. And we touched on it earlier about trying to build that 360-degree wellness offering. So they play a very, very important kind of role in offering that experience. Especially, I'd say, more nude than apparel. Apparel is helpful. People obviously want to wear athleisure more and more now. But I think nude on the nutrition side, what you eat plays a big part in getting the benefits of the exercise you do. And it's hard to get the full benefit of your exercise to exercise and then go have a double walk or something like that. So I think the nutrition side plays a very important part. And it's funny, when we first launched smoothies and juice and that, people didn't fully appreciate it. And it's now it's very, very, how do you say, people understand and appreciate the full benefit of a healthy diet and the role it plays. And I think, again, when we build our clubs, we want, one of the most important areas is the lounge area, to build that sense of community and the social element. And sitting down and having a smoothie or a juice with a friend or something healthy plays a very important part of that. So to us, it's part of that whole ecosystem.
Okay, last question, Colin, before you let you off the loose. Let's leave COVID in the rear view mirror once and for all. 12 months ahead, looking forward, if we possibly can do, what excites you most about the future industry?
So I talk about this to my team all the time. We are so blessed and so lucky to do what we do. Running fitness centers, yoga studios, getting people healthy. What I enjoy the most is when I sit in the club and I see people come out of a group class or come out and they've just exercised. You can feel it, the energy they have and how they feel. And if you look at the back of COVID, if you look at the back of the rates of chronic disease globally, obesity, type 2 diabetes, the majority of chronic diseases are preventable by smoking less, drinking less, but it's exercising and eating healthy. So we have a massive role to play. And I think what's going to happen is, and on the back of this, I touched on it earlier, governments are going to see us as an essential service. And we've got to be working and lobbying the governments to really support our industry, because we're an essential service. And we have a very important role to play to help people both physically and mentally, especially on the back of the lockdowns. It's tough for everybody. It really is. So we've got to be here for everybody, and we've got to do this together.
Well, Colin, a huge appreciation and praise for what you and the team are continuing to do all across Asia in promoting wellness and good health habits. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for Colin Grant.
Ross, can I say one thing?
Absolutely, please do.
I want to thank you and your team for putting on this event, helping us and helping all the operators in Singapore. You play an important part of this industry as well. So please host more of these and keep up the good work for you and your team. Thank you very much. And thank you for the invite and giving me this opportunity.